The 1960s were supposed to be Britain's golden age of motoring. New roads, new ambitions, and a nation ready to drive into the future. But behind the showroom shine and the optimistic brochures, some of these cars were absolute disasters waiting to happen. Engines that refused to start. Bodywork that dissolved in the rain. Designs so baffling that engineers themselves struggled to explain them. Today on Britain Rewind we count down 10 British cars from that decade that owners genuinely came to hate. And number 1? It still makes former owners frustrated to this day. Now let us begin with number 10. Number 10, Hillman Imp. At number 10, meet the Hillman Imp. When Roots Group launched it in 1963, it was genuinely ambitious. A rear-engined, aluminium block 875cc engine, nimble handling, and a clever rear hatch that doubled as a boot. On paper, it sounded like Britain's answer to the Mini. In reality, it became one of the most unreliable small cars of the entire decade. The engine overheated constantly because the cooling system was poorly designed from the start. The all-aluminium engine warped under stress, and head gasket failures became almost a weekly ritual for some owners. The factory itself, hastily built in Linwood, Scotland, suffered chronic quality control problems. Workers were inexperienced, panels were misaligned, and cars left the production line already half broken. Buyers felt betrayed after paying real money for something that spent more time in garages than on roads. Would you have trusted this car with your daily commute? The next car made even this look reliable. Number 9, Triumph Herald. The Triumph Herald looked charming. Its Giovanni Michelotti styling gave it elegant lines, and the turning circle seemed genuinely clever for tight British streets. But underneath that pretty exterior was a chassis decision that terrified owners almost immediately. The swing-axle rear suspension, borrowed from older technology, made the Herald dangerously unpredictable at speed. Push it through a corner too confidently and the rear would lift dramatically, threatening to tip the car entirely. Road testers described the handling as genuinely alarming, not merely uncomfortable but actively dangerous. The 948cc and later 1147cc engines were not powerful enough to be exciting, yet still managed to consume oil at a startling rate. Rust arrived early and with ambition, attacking the separate chassis and bodywork simultaneously. Owners who bought the Herald expecting economical, stylish transport found themselves dealing with a car that fought them at every turn. And the story ahead only gets stranger from here. Number 8, Austin A40 Farina. Austin A40 Farina arrived wearing Italian styling credentials. Pininfarina designed its two-box body, making it arguably the first true hatchback silhouette in British production history. That sounds impressive. The reality underneath was far less glamorous. The BMC B-Series engine in its smallest 948cc form was sluggish, uninspiring, and barely adequate for British roads that were becoming increasingly busier. Build quality was inconsistent in ways that embarrassed the manufacturer. Doors sagged on their hinges within months. Electrical gremlins, courtesy of Lucas Electrics, plagued owners with mysterious failures and lights that flickered without warning. The heating system was notoriously ineffective, which mattered enormously in British winters. Rust established itself quickly in the sills and floor sections, meaning a 5-year-old example could look structurally concerning. Buyers felt the Italian styling promised more than British Leyland was willing to deliver mechanically. Few people remember this car fondly today, and fewer still were sorry to see it discontinued. Number 7, Vauxhall Victor F-Type. The Vauxhall Victor F-Type brought American styling ambitions to British roads. The wraparound windscreen, chrome strips, and two-tone paint options screamed transatlantic optimism. But this car rusted with a speed that genuinely shocked the motoring press. Owners reported visible rust appearing within 12 months of purchase, sometimes sooner. The bodywork was simply too thin and too poorly protected to survive British weather for any reasonable period. The 1508cc overhead valve engine was not particularly powerful and had a habit of overheating in traffic, which was becoming an increasingly common problem as British towns grew busier. The American influence cabin felt flimsy up close, with plastics that cracked early and seats that wore out faster than comparable European competitors. Consumer feedback was brutal by the standards of the era. Road magazine testers noted the rust problem publicly, which embarrassed Vauxhall considerably. This car promised Hollywood and delivered damp disappointment. The car ahead managed something even more remarkable. It frustrated an entirely new generation of buyers. Number 6. Bond Equipe. The Bond Equipe was an ambitious attempt to create an affordable British Grand Tourer. Built by Bond Cars in Preston, it used Triumph Herald mechanical components underneath a fiberglass body style to look vaguely Italian. The concept had charm. The execution had serious problems. The Herald's terrifying swing axle suspension returned here, meaning the Equipe handled with the same alarming unpredictability at speed. The fiberglass body was hand-built to inconsistent standards, meaning no two cars felt quite identical, and not in a flattering way. Panel gaps varied. Finishes differed. Wind noise at motorway speeds became an unwanted soundtrack for every long journey. The Triumph Herald electrical system transferred across completely intact, bringing all its famous unreliability with it. Buyers who imagined weekend touring in a stylish British coupe found themselves dealing with a temperamental machine that tested their patience constantly. Enthusiasm for the Equipe faded quickly in period reviews. Very few survive today, and not entirely because they were cherished. Let us know in the comments which of these you would absolutely never own. Number 5. Humber Sceptre Mark I. Humber Sceptre Mark I was sold as a refined, executive small saloon. Roots Group positioned it above the Hillman Imps in their range, targeting buyers who wanted something that felt premium without paying Jaguar prices. The problem was that the Sceptre shared its underpinnings almost entirely with the Hillman Super Imps, and no amount of extra chrome or walnut veneer could disguise that underneath. The 1592cc engine produced a deeply modest 80 horsepower and returned fuel consumption figures that frustrated owners trying to use it as the economical executive car the brochures described. The automatic gearbox option, when fitted, proved unreliable and expensive to repair. Electrical systems failed with predictable regularity. Roots quality control in this period was inconsistent at best, and the Sceptre exposed every weakness. Buyers paying a premium price expected premium reliability. They rarely received it. The reputation never recovered, and even today the Sceptre Mark I is remembered with more frustration than affection. Stay with us because the most infuriating car is still coming. Number 4. Reliant Regal Supervan 3. Now wait until you hear the full story of the Reliant Regal. 3 wheels, a 700cc engine producing around 25 horsepower. A fiberglass body so light that strong crosswinds on motorways made drivers genuinely nervous. The Regal was sold on the strength of its tax classification as a tricycle, which meant owners needed only a motorcycle license to drive one. That attracted buyers who perhaps should never have been driving something this fast. Stability was a constant concern. The single front wheel meant that tight cornering required careful management, and hasty steering inputs could tip the vehicle with alarming ease. The engine was noisy, underpowered, and agricultural in character. Occupant comfort was minimal. The interior felt closer to a garden shed than an automobile. Yet Reliant sold enormous numbers throughout the decade, which says something interesting about the price point it occupied. Many owners genuinely despised the experience while continuing to drive them because nothing else cost so little. The next car had no such excuse for its problems. Number 3. Wolseley Hornet. Wolseley Hornet presents one of the great stories of badge engineering frustration from the entire 1960s. Take a Mini. Add a longer boot. Fit a more upright, traditional Wolseley grille and some chrome. Charge significantly more money. That was genuinely the entire plan. The Hornet used the same 848cc A-series engine as the standard Mini but wrapped it in a body that confused buyers entirely. The extended boot made it heavier without making it meaningfully more practical. The additional weight blunted the Mini's famous agility, which was the one genuinely brilliant quality the base car possessed. Buyers who paid extra for the Wolseley name expected refinement and reliability. The Mini platform underneath was never designed to carry the extra costs this badge demanded. Electrical problems, oil leaks, and rust appeared at the same rate as in cheaper versions. Owners felt cheated in a very specific way, paying premium prices for essentially the same faults. The real frustration was still one position away. Number 2. Triumph Vitesse. The Triumph Vitesse looked genuinely exciting. 6 cylinders under the bonnet of a compact saloon, twin headlights stacked vertically, and a price that seemed almost reasonable for the performance promised. Triumph's 1596cc six-cylinder engine gave the Vitesse a top speed approaching 90 miles per hour, which was genuinely brisk for 1962. Then you tried to corner it quickly. The same swing-axle rear suspension that made the Herald dangerous appeared here, but now attached to a car with considerably more power. The results were predictably terrifying. Oversteer came suddenly and with very little warning. Road testers were alarmed. Contemporary reviews described the handling as genuinely hazardous at the limit, and several noted that only experienced drivers should attempt enthusiastic cornering. Rust attacked the bodywork aggressively. The six-cylinder engine consumed oil and required careful maintenance that many owners were unprepared to provide. The Vitesse had real talent buried beneath real problems. But nothing prepared the British public for what was waiting at number 1. Number 1, BMC ADO16, Austin 1100 and Morris 1100. At number 1, the Austin and Morris 1100. This requires a moment to absorb properly. The ADO16 was the best-selling car in Britain for most of the 1960s. It was genuinely innovative, featuring Alec Issigonus's hydrolastic suspension and front-wheel drive in a remarkably spacious package. Britain loved it. Then Britain came to despise it profoundly. The rust was catastrophic and arrived faster than almost any contemporary competitor. Subframes corroded until they became structurally unsafe. The hydrolastic suspension leaked fluid and sagged, leaving cars sitting unevenly and handling unpredictably. The 1098cc A-series engine was reliable enough in theory, but the build quality surrounding it was so poor that constant small failures accumulated into genuine misery. Owners spent heavily on repairs for a car that never seemed to stay fixed. Few cars have fallen so far from universal admiration to widespread resentment in such a short period. Former owners still describe their experience with visible frustration today. That reputation is entirely deserved. The 1960s were supposed to be Britain's finest hour on four wheels, a decade of bold ideas, fresh ambitions, and a nation hungry to move forward. But ambition without craftsmanship is just expensive disappointment, and thousands of ordinary British families learned that lesson the hard way. They trusted these cars with school runs, summer holidays, and Sunday mornings, and too often those cars let them down completely. Yet somehow, decades later, the frustration has softened into something almost affectionate. These failures are part of Britain's story too. Which car on this list would you never forgive? Drop it in the comments and subscribe to Britain Rewind if you haven't already, and we will see you in the next one.